words. This morning, we are still in the middle of the Advent conspiracy. Everybody remember, right? We're trying to subvert Christmas. We're kind of be like spies, and we want to make Christmas meaningful again in the way it was always meant to be meaningful. And in order for us to really do that, we've got to be serious. And as spies, as ones who are covertly trying to change the direction and the spirit of Christmas, we've got to be people that invite people to something that's different. So I want to invite you again to remember our Christmas Eve services times. What times are they again? 1, 3, 5, and 7. The question is not which service are you going to. The question is, who are you going to bring with you? Who are you going to bring with you? Because it doesn't change until we begin to place the pressure on the world to change. Invite people into something different. Again, for those of you who are new this morning, the Advent conspiracy is this idea that somewhere along the line, Christmas got lost. That Christmas got lost in the conspiracy. That got lost in consumerism. And as it got lost in consumerism, well, baby Jesus kind of went from the center of the story to just another part of the story. And somewhere in the Christmas onslaught that we live through and we live in, well, we got out of focus. We literally focused ourselves onto the wrong things. And Christmas became more about all the baubles, all the decorations, all the lights, and not about God coming, arriving to save us all. Now, I had the opportunity to take a bunch of the staff last year to go see Tim Hawkins, and I want to share with you a little bit of his take on Christmas. Enjoy.
Christmas is kind of bittersweet for me because when I was a kid, my first time performing, I was 6 years old. And I was performing in our Christmas pageant at church. I had one line in one song. It was the song, Do You Hear What I Hear? And I messed it up. I sang, a child, sleeping in the night with a tail as big as a kite. That's not the way that song goes, ladies and gentlemen. People get mad when you sing about baby Jesus with a tail. Think about that song, Do You Hear What I Hear? It's Psycho. Who wrote that? Said the little lamb to the shepherd boy. I think the shepherd boy's been in the field a little too long, don't you? Talking to the sheep. Really? Oh. We gotta tell the mighty king. Gets worse, they go to the mighty king. A child shivers in the cold. Let us bring him silver and gold. How about a blanket? How about some soup? Child shivering in the cold. Throw some gold on him, he'll be fine. He's got pneumonia, but he's loaded. That kid is gonna be something.
That's a little bit of Tim Hawkins right there. Yeah, and if the child is cold, you can invite him to Cocoa and Carols and have some warm cocoa and carol it up tonight at 6 o'clock. We're super excited. As we've stepped into the Advent conspiracy, we've talked about 3 things so far. We've talked about worship fully, how this changes, the conspiracy changes when we engage our hearts fully in worship, focusing on Jesus. The second part was spending less, because in this consumeristic mode, it's all about buying and buying and buying and buying. And Christmas isn't plastic. Christmas is fleshy. It's about a child that comes to us. And our third today is it this one? Could it be this one? Give more. And people, when they hear this, like, well, how can I spend less and give more? Well, it starts with us avoiding the plastic Jesus, The plastic manger Jesus. How many of y'all have seen or maybe even own a plastic manger Jesus? Come on, be honest. Does it light up? Come on. How many of y'all know someone or have seen a plastic light-up manger Jesus? There you go. And internally, if you're like me, I hope your heart weeps a little bit. I mean, he is a light of the world. That's great. It's beautiful. But I'm not sure that Christmas was plastic or ever meant to be plastic or rain resistant or any of the other things that they add to the advertisements on those beautiful outdoor plastic nativity sets. And that's what I think we bought. Unintentionally, we bought the story of Christmas that's plastic. You know, it's disposable. Every year you can get a new one. It doesn't have to last all the time. It's got to weather a little bit, but it's ultimately not the real deal. Now, as we go into this Christmas season, have you ever had the problem that I call of undergiving? Undergiving. It's when you bought something for someone and then you found out that they actually did something really nice and they bought you a bigger, better gift than you expected. Undergiving. You know what? So what happens when you undergive? You go back and you shop some more, right? You try to go find a better gift. Well, in my story, and I had two great friends, I still do, growing up. Their names were Tim and Tom Zender. They've been here once or twice singing music for us a long time ago. And as friends growing up, I would spend a lot of time shopping for what I thought was the best gift for them. And as kids growing up, we grew up in the 80s, we grew up with the Transformers, and they loved the Transformers. So I went to Toys R Us, and I bought the coolest, nicest Transformers I could for my best friends who were twins, Tim and Tom. So I got an Optimus Prime, and what's the bad guy's name? Megatron, that's right. Really cool. Transformers, robots in disguise, Transformers, you know the rest of the line? More that meets the eye. And you know what they gave me? Big, giant ball of tinfoil. They called it a Zender Nugget. I called mine the coolest toy ever. It was Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobots, and Megatron, the evil leader of the Decepticons. But what was in that Zender Nugget was all sorts of sweets and candies and stuff like that, things that they put together for their friends, right? It was a personal gift. It was a relational gift. It was really nice. But it wasn't something cool like a Transformer. What I want us to get to this morning is that the greatest gifts that are given are always personal and relational. The greatest gifts are always personal and relational. When we look at the story of Christmas, Jesus didn't come plastic, right? He didn't come with a quick fix. He didn't come in all these different ways. He came in a personal and relational way. Let's take a look at John chapter 1. John, when he writes his gospel, he tells the story of Jesus' coming, and he tells it in a personal and a relational way. John, unlike the other gospel writers, isn't obsessed with angels or shepherds or sheep or a little manger and a little girl. He's telling a big story, a cosmic story. And as he writes, he wants his readers to recognize and to hearken back to the Genesis story as he writes this. He says this: "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him, not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life. And the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it." And he goes on here at the end of this little section. He says, "And the Word became flesh and lived among us. And we have seen his glory, and the glory as the Father's only Son, full of grace and full of truth." John's writing a story that starts with God showing up personally with flesh. relationally, to be with us. Emmanuel, God with us. The Message version of this, I love how the Message writes it. It says, God moved into the neighborhood. Isn't that cool? It's like God came and moved into your apartment building, or God became your neighbor. That's relational. It's personal. Because the greatest gifts, church, are always going to be personal and relational gifts. Now, John's not done explaining the personalness of how Jesus is here for us. He again writes a little bit more in John chapter 3. He says this, "For God so loved the world that he," what's the word? "Gave his only Son, so that everyone who believes in him may not perish, but have eternal life. Indeed, God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him." God sent him on a mission, a personal mission, a mission of rescue, a mission of restoration, of redemption, a mission that says, you are mine and I'm going to save you from the brokenness. God's gift to us in Jesus is both personal and relational. See, God literally gives us more of himself than he's ever given at any time in all of history in Jesus Christ. I want you to hear that again. In Jesus, God gives us more of himself than has ever been given before. And it's personal. And it's relational. So what would it look like if we gave more personally and more relationally? What if we spent less on all the baubles and bling and the things that everybody says that they need and want, the plasticiness of Christmas, and we gave more relationally? If we gave more personally, what would that look like in your circle of friends, in your family? How would that change things if suddenly they didn't get the gift that they weren't asking for, and instead you wrote them a letter that explained how much you love them? What would that do? What if instead of buying someone the gift card, instead you said, let's go out to lunch together and spent time with someone relationally? What if we gave more of our heart in relationship? What if we gave more of our heart personally instead of choosing to give more of our wallet and to take on debt? The essence of God's coming was to take away our sin debt. And yet every year people go into debt over Christmas. It breaks my heart. It's like we get it all wrong. We become slaves to our credit cards. We become slaves to our finances. And it's because we bought part of the lie. You could, if you chose to, invest your time. Give more of your time to something or someone. You could, if you chose to, invest your talent. Because God has given you a wealth of talent. You know it. You could even invest your heart. Maybe by getting to know someone you don't know and beginning to love them more than you've ever loved anyone before. Now, you remember that tinfoil ball, right? That Zender nugget? This last year, there's been a crazy thing that's happened on the internet, and it kind of helped me realize that Zender nugget was a lot more important than I ever thought it was. First, when I think about all the gifts that people give me over time, it's interesting that a gift that was personal and relational is one of the few gifts that I remember because it mattered. I don't remember all the candy that was in there. I remembered I got this weird gift. Because as you hold on to a weird gift like that that's personal and relational, you can shine it into something else. What's been going on the internet is people have been taking tinfoil balls, smashing them, hammering them, and polishing them, and turning them into perfect mirror balls. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty crazy. That something that looks like that can become something that's beautiful. God shows up as a baby. It's a mess. The rest of the world doesn't even notice it. But over time, we we get to know him as a God who loves us personally. We get to know him as a God who loves us and reaches us relationally. We get to know him as a God that came to save us. God literally gave more than we ever could anticipate. So I want to ask you, if you were to take this idea seriously, it might be too late for this Christmas because I know many of you have gotten your shopping done. If you've gotten your shopping done, say, I have. If you just lied, whisper under your cheek. Right now, we spend a lot of money on a lot of things, but we could choose to direct or save some money so we can spend it on things that might actually change that world. I've been partnered with a group called World Vision for about the last 30 years, changing the world for people in third world countries by providing education, by providing medication, by providing nutrition, by providing clean water. Give a gift in someone's name to World Vision. You could respond by partnering with Presbyterian Disaster Assistance, helping families that have lost so much in our recent fires and giving a gift in someone's name, and give more relationally because you love the people that lost so much and you love the person that you're giving in the name of. You could give a gift through Compassion International, which works right now in Central America, in Honduras, Ecuador, Guatemala, all the places that are currently in turmoil, all the places that are currently knocking on our border to help create health out of brokenness. You could. The question is, will you? Jesus comes to show us that God gives us more. God gives you more, gives me more than we could ever anticipate. Can you respond in some small way? And give back. Let's pray. Great and powerful God, God of love and mercy, God of majesty, God who makes Christmas really what Christmas is about. Father, we are so overwhelmed by the gift that you've given us that sometimes we can't even look at it. We can't even understand how you gave so much of yourself for us to be for us. Father, we ask that this morning as we consider our hearts, that we might be beginning that process of giving more personally and giving more relationally, that we might invest in others before we invest in ourselves, that we might seek that justice, that we might be looking to give humbly. Father, we ask as we get ready and we continue into this Christmas season, that we might meet you at the manger and see that moment as the moment when you broke through all of time and all of space so that you could personally be with us, so that you could relationally be with us, that we might understand how you've given us so much more than we could ever have expected. Allow us to learn how to give like you give. We pray this with the prayer you taught us to pray, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever.
When peace like giving, it's ended my way. When sorrows I with my soul, with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. It is well, and it is well, it is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. It is well, it